When you look at trends over time, when you look at trends by grade level, when you look at trends for student groups, oftentimes what we'll find is that there are pretty significant differences between the attendance rates that can help us to identify opportunities to provide tiered support in more of a systemic way.
So when we focus on a student's well-being, they feel seen, they feel safe, they feel understood, and it helps build connection with the student, so it makes them want to be at school.
The education landscape is constantly evolving. Staying ahead of the trends is essential. Welcome to Ed Buzz LA County, where we explore groundbreaking initiatives, inspiring stories, and innovative practices shaping the future of learning here in Southern California. Today, we're taking a closer look at a critical issue in education, attendance. Regular attendance is essential for students to succeed academically and socially. However, getting kids to attend school consistently can be a challenge for some school districts. I'm Elizabeth Graswich, Executive Director of Public Affairs and Communications. I'm joined by Dr. Debra Duardo, Los Angeles County Superintendent of Schools, and Alicia Garoupa, Chief of Wellbeing and Support Services. Today, we're going to talk more about the strategies districts are implementing to keep students in school. Thank you both for being here today.
Thank you, Liz.
Thank you.
So I'm incredibly excited to have both of you here today, not just because I love working with both of you, but also because you're just major experts. I would argue probably the experts in LA County on student attendance. So can you share a little bit about your backgrounds in this area?
Well, for me, I started off my career in education as an attendance counselor in the largest district in LA County. And so a lot of the work that I did was really trying to understand why students were not coming to school, which students were not coming to school, what are some of the conditions that took place at the school and in the community and with individual students and families to understand what was preventing students from attending school regularly.
And Alicia?
So similar to Dr. Duardo, I joined the largest district in our county in 2001. I became a pupil services and attendance counselor. Started in an elementary school full-time with a 3-track, I think 14 or 1,500 students. And I had the good fortune of being there full-time, so it allowed me to really, I think, assess kind of fully what was going on within the school and try to support improved conditions over the couple of years I was there. And then, like Dr. Duardo, I served in a variety of other roles all over the city, all related though to child welfare and attendance. From being a school attendance review board chairperson to helping with Dr. Duardo to design an attendance improvement program that provided targeted support to improve student attendance for some of our schools that were struggling the most.
And while I know both of you have gone on to have a lot more responsibilities in your current careers, I know many of us still turn to both of you when it comes to attendance, just because of your expertise in this area. So we are very excited to have you today. Dr. Duardo, let's start with you. Can you share a little bit about, attendance awareness and why it's so important?
Attendance is critical. It's one of the first signs of a child having a challenge or a student being disengaged with school. We know that the highest indicators of high school dropout are first students not attending school regularly. So it's so important that one, we're making sure that our students are engaged, that they're coming to school every day, and that we're looking at data to understand and identify which students are not coming to school regularly and go a little bit deeper to understand the root causes of what's going on in that student's life that's preventing them from engaging in school every day.
I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Alicia.
Yeah, absolutely. To add to Dr. Duardo's comments, I think when I think about individual students, it's definitely about looking at root causes and understanding some of the challenges. But we also recognize that there are some systems issues that are often in play when it comes to absenteeism. When you look at trends over time, when you look at trends by grade level, when you look at trends for student groups, oftentimes what we'll find is that there are pretty significant differences between the attendance rates that can help us to identify opportunities to provide tiered support in more of a systemic way. And I can share as an example, when I first started in an elementary school, It didn't take long for me to figure out that certain elementary classrooms, kindergarten classrooms in particular, tended to have lower attendance. That wasn't consistently the case, but in some of the rooms, the attendance was not as good. So I think looking at individual student factors is extremely important. And another layer to that is really trying to understand what some of the systems are that are supporting that sort of connection and motivation to attend school every day, and where sometimes those things are not as strong, and what we can do to build better relationships and strengthen the conditions for kids to want to be there.
I'm so glad that she brought up the issue of looking at the systems, because if you have a school environment where students don't feel a sense of belonging, where the culture isn't welcoming, where the instruction isn't exciting and engaging, there's so many things that oftentimes we think about individual students, and I'm so glad that you brought that up, Alicia, is that there are a lot of things that districts and schools do that can either improve student attendance or make it worse. Even something as simple as our schedules.
So what are some of the challenges that affect student attendance?
The first thing that I think about is the first experience that a family has when they come to a school. There are systems in place there as well, right? I remember, I've been in schools where you walk in the door and you have a feeling of either being welcomed or being a bother potentially. And honestly, that is one of the first impressions that we give, right, as schools is our family's first interaction with us. And I think, honestly, from that moment, we're kind of setting the tone. And you, as Dr. Duardo alluded to, the climate that we create, right, that sense of love and connection and joy, and honestly, sort of a customer service mindset, right, that we're here to be in service to our kids, to their families. And that is from the moment of enrollment, right? Trying to eliminate barriers to students being able to enroll in school, ensuring that we are efficient and supportive. I know for me, it was a red flag in my school when I had kids enrolling partway through the year, right? Recognizing that our kids are coming to us, our families, with a variety of different things that might be going on in their lives. And our job is to create and support community, so that school is a place that they want to be and where they know that they can receive support and be seen and cared for as a part of a school community.
Yeah, and just like Alicia said, it starts with enrollment. I can't tell you how many times I saw families sent away because they didn't have the proper documentation or immunizations. And so my philosophy was like, never send someone away when they're here to enroll. Let's get them enrolled and in school as quickly as possible. But it's from enrollment to how the student and family feels in the classroom. Is the instruction engaging? Does the student welcome the students when they come in? When they miss a day of school, does the teacher say, oh, you're back, it was so quiet without you? Or do they say, wow, I really missed you yesterday. I'm so glad that you're back in school. It's everything from discipline policies to good instruction to planning activities, and it's around understanding your school attendance data. So once you are really analyzing your data and identifying, well, which days of the week are the students not coming? We know Mondays and Fridays are lower attendance days. So have some really fun, exciting activities on Mondays and Fridays to make sure students are coming. Don't plan pupil-free days on a Thursday, because it's an incentive to say, oh, I didn't have school Thursday, so let's just make it a long weekend, and school's not that important if I miss on Friday. It's the discipline practices, it's suspending children and giving them an opportunity to have a district-imposed absence. There's so many things that we can do that are part of our systems to make sure that attendance is improved. But it's not just the school. There's so many things involved with attendance. It's also really getting to know your student and that student's family and community, and having really honest conversations to understand what's going on, what's preventing them from coming to school regularly, and then developing a plan on how to support those students.
It's interesting. We've been talking about attendance for so long, but I think that the COVID pandemic had kind of an interesting impact on the attendance conversation. And now we find ourselves in a place where we're having to share why attendance is so important and the impacts that it has. Can you speak a little bit to that?
Well, I think we've always had to explain why attendance is so important. And a lot of times, people even having a common understanding of what is good attendance. Because you can talk to different people and say, someone thinks, I'm there 90% of the time. Well, I've got excellent attendance. And so really setting clear expectations around what attendance should look like. But I don't think, no question, since the pandemic, where we were very clear about don't come to school if you have a cough, don't come to school if you're sneezing, really making it clear that if you had any minor type of illness that you needed to stay home. I think a lot of students and families got accustomed to thinking like, well, if I'm a little sick, it's okay. And now what we're really trying to make sure that everybody understands is unless you have a fever, unless you're really not feeling well, you need to be in school every day, because the negative impact of a student not being at school is so much more detrimental in terms of their learning loss, in terms of them feeling isolated, their ability to engage with their friends and their teachers. I mean, for some students, the only, time they are guaranteed 3 meals a day is by coming to school every day. Or for some students, getting some of that supplemental or, additional support really happens at school. So we're trying to do everything possible now to make it clear that attendance is a priority, and there is so much data and evidence that will tell you that children who don't come to school regularly are much more likely to end up dropping out of school, because the first symptom, that you'll see is before they drop out, they start attending less. So we really need to make sure that they're coming to school every day, that they don't fall behind with their learning. But we need to make sure that schools are meeting the needs of students so that they want to be there.
Absolutely. And what are some of the things that schools are doing in terms of talking about different programs, things that they can do to incentivize or educate, encourage attendance?
Yeah, well, I think partnering with parents is a critical piece of that. To sort of adding what Dr. Duardo said, there's research that really supports that parents generally are going to underestimate how much their child has missed. They don't really realize that, and also, like Dr. Duardo also alluded to, that how important it is to have a clear goal that's a positive goal, and to share that with the school community, right? Because it's not a goal if there's this idea, measure what you treasure, right? We have to put it out there, and we have to hold everybody to this and make it positive, right? That we're going to work toward this goal together, and we need to all do this together. And if it's only a counselor who's looking at the attendance, if it's only the principal, right, once every 6 months looking at the attendance, we're missing the opportunity to engage with our entire school community around positive attendance goals, right, around improving kids' daily attendance habits. And those routines, right, the kind of muscles, right, like just similar to when you exercise your physical muscles, the pandemic really disrupted a lot of those routines. So there are some muscles that we got to work on, right, to get ourselves back in the habit of, getting out there, getting into class, and, building the social connections and development that our kids really need.
Yeah, I'm excited that today we're going to be able to share a few examples of schools in LA County that are doing great things. So chronic absenteeism is a growing problem in many schools, as we were discussing, but Ybarra Academy of Arts and Technology in Walnut is taking a proactive approach to tackle this issue. Ybarra Academy is in the Roland Unified School District, which has been recognized by the California Department of Education for its Not Being Absent program to improve school attendance. Let's take a look. Ybarra Academy of the Arts and Technology is tackling chronic absenteeism head-on with a new initiative aimed at keeping students engaged and in school. The program, known as the Not Being Absent or NBA Challenge, offers a range of incentives and resources designed to improve attendance rates across the campus. Launched in 2023, the program aims to improve overall attendance, decrease unexcused absences, and identify students who are chronically absent.
And then lastly was to improve our parents and teachers and staff and students' belief systems around attendance and the importance around it.
One of the standout aspects of the program is the empathy interviews conducted with chronically absent students. Through these interviews, school administrators and counselors can better understand the root causes behind absenteeism.
So once we figure out what is concern that they have, so if they're struggling with anxiety or friendship, then we are able to go and either do an individual meet or do groups to help them.
This approach allows the school to provide personalized support through partnerships with the district's Family Resource Center, offering mental health services, food security, transportation assistance, and even home visits when necessary.
So when we focus on a student's well-being, they feel seen, they feel safe, they feel understood, and it helps build connection with the student. So it makes them want to be at school, right? So I think that helps with improving attendance greatly.
The NBA Challenge doesn't just address absences, it promotes engagement through competition and rewards. Students are motivated by an attendance board that tracks each classroom's progress, sparking friendly competition across grade levels.
You see like the whole graph and it's like shows who's first. So I myself is a very competitive person, so I like to be like up there and stuff. So seeing me up there, that really just like helps me like stay there because I want to be on top.
The incentive structure includes pizza parties, field days, and even gift cards for top performing classes and individuals.
We've noticed a lot of goal setting within the classrooms. We've noticed a more cohesive, collaborative, kids encouraging one another, and just the overall excitement. Kids want to be a part of something, they're playing, coming to school, and encouraging their peers to come as well.
The program helps foster an environment of encouragement and accountability. Assemblies and buddy systems have helped build community, while academic and social-emotional supports are integrated into classroom life. Moving forward, Ybarra Academy plans to continue evolving the NBA Challenge while exploring new ways to keep students engaged both academically and socially. By focusing on empathy, collaboration, and incentives, the school is taking meaningful steps towards reducing absenteeism and improving overall student performance. So that was fun to watch. What do you think of that program?
Well, one thing that stood out to me that I really liked is their focus on educating students, staff, and parents on the importance of attendance. And I think that is a critical component that oftentimes, as Alicia said earlier, parents aren't aware of how often their students are absent, or they don't realize that taking a day off to go to Disneyland is really having an impact on their students' learning and them falling behind. So I liked that part of it. I thought it was fun. You know, it looked like the students were having fun, and, you know, the competitive aspect of it, you know, making it just fun and making sure that everybody is supporting one another to come to school. The whole, you know, fun environment and making it exciting.
I agree. I think I heard a couple things that really stood out. One is the caring adult piece, right? Every student needs to be known by the adults on campus and have at least one caring adult, right? And there are ways we can measure that. The California Healthy Kids Survey, that, you know, districts could all be using measures that help us gauge that every kid should have that feeling, and that's a goal that we can work toward that will improve attendance. And then, as Dr. Duardo mentioned, the positive competition thing, right? Not just for individuals and that perfect attendance thing, which may not be achievable for every student, but having classroom competitions where people, again, are connected. The kids are connected to one another. And I heard the student mention, right, this positive competition. I want to be on top, right? So they're paying attention to when their peers are in class and they're motivating each other because everybody wants to win, right? Everybody wants to win.
It's a great approach. You know, our second school district is the Glendora Unified School District, which has also been recognized and for their program, which is called the Get On Board program. It's designed to foster a more engaging and supportive learning environment. Let's take a look at this one. 2 years ago, Glendora High School implemented the Get On Board program, emphasizing relationship building and connections for both students and staff from day one.
Just the idea that for day one, you want students to feel safe and comfortable here. You want them to feel connected to this campus. Learning can't happen in that classroom. You can't have a student engaged in the academics if they don't feel connected to each other and to that teacher. So we really have worked on not just that first day, but throughout the year really building, we call them tartan connections, and really building those connections so that students are able and ready to learn.
The first day's agenda is very different from the traditional syllabus reviews and class introductions. That's done on purpose.
What if we had a first day where instead of focusing on the things that they can't do or the rules or what they have to do, we just took the time to say connecting with you is important. And so that's what we did.
Instead of studying on the first day, students hang out with friends, enjoy delicious food, and participate in activities designed to build connections. They also learn about various ways to get involved in school life, from clubs to extracurricular activities.
It helped all the students here, and it just made everyone feel welcomed. Everyone now gets to know each other, and I mean, that's one of the key parts of high school, and getting to know each other, feeling comfortable in the environment you're in. It definitely succeeded with doing that.
The Get On Board program has definitely helped me with my social skills, to reach to groups of people that I really never talked to before. Get to know classmates I don't have classes with, because we're in big groups of people walking around campus doing all different things. So definitely setting that tone with people and the first day of school, which is really cool to have.
I think they feel a relationship. And I think the most important thing to any successful organization is relationship. I think positive is important, but if you put them together, positive relationships, I think, is what's building from this.
The Get On Board program goes beyond the first day. Each month, there's a connection period where students and staff continue to bond. They also celebrate birthdays and hand out rewards like donuts, pizza, and even snack attacks, where students are surprised with snacks in class. These ongoing activities help maintain the sense of community established on day one. The school continually assesses the program to keep it meaningful and impactful.
To keep it relevant, we want to go back to, hey, what do you need? How can we help this move forward? What are we missing? What can we do better next time, kind of thing, so that we catch everyone and get them all on board.
The success of the program could serve as a model for other schools looking to prioritize student engagement and community building. So that was really fun to me. I didn't realize when I heard the name it was going to be Get On Board, like a surfboard. So what a great marketing branding approach. But this was all about connection, belonging, and I know we talk about that a lot. So your thoughts on the program?
Yeah, I loved, you could tell even by the t-shirts that they were wearing, right, that this is a cohesive group. I think a lot, what stood out to me is the team building piece, right, the community building piece, and the creating conditions for belonging, right, taking time at the beginning. Again, I think we all need to feel a sense of belonging and to be connected as a part of a community. So I'm gonna guess, although they don't talk about it in this video, that this is a school that during professional learning, they do some community building as well, right? And they're taking time at the beginning of the school year to connect students to each other and to build community, right? During that really sensitive transition into high school where there are a lot of unknowns, there's anxiety, and there's a need to connect and to build a sense of belonging, and that really pays dividends. I think that's true for any team. But for students and their social development and their connection to school, I think it's really critical.
Yeah, I agree. I think those personal relationships and developing those bonds between students and their teachers and other staff and each other is really critical. And you can see that they spent some time really thinking about making sure that students felt welcomed and that they had an exciting first day of school. And you're always going to have some students that may come to a new school and don't feel like they have any friends there, that are more shy, that are more introverted. So this is really a good opportunity to get everybody engaged. But I think when we're talking about attendance, it's really important that it takes a lot of different activities and techniques to ensure good attendance. And part of it is understanding that some things you do like this, that is for everybody. This is the first day of school. We want to get everybody feeling a sense of belonging, engaged, and welcomed. And then as the school year continues, you are going to have some students that even if you do the most welcoming, fantastic, exciting, engaging, get to know each other, that still may have some issues going on. You're still going to have some students that are really anxious or maybe depressed or have some other type of mental health disorder. You're still going to have some students that have something going on in their lives where maybe there's domestic violence in the home or they don't have a home to stay in. And so I think that these are great things that you do for the whole population of students. And as you continue to track attendance, then identifying what are the additional supports or programs that you need for those students who have some unique circumstances that you need to address. Because this is wonderful, let's welcome everybody and everything's great, but then what's next? What do you do for that student, even though you had this wonderful opportunity, is still struggling with some real concerns, and ensuring that you are connecting those students, identifying what those issues are, and connecting those students to additional resources.
Well, speaking of resources, I mean, I think, that's one of the big things we do here at LACOE, and this has been such a big focus for us. So, Alicia, what are some of the resources that your team have been putting together for school districts?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm really proud of the work that the Child Welfare and Attendance team does here at LACOE. We've worked on the development of a playbook, and the first chapter of that playbook around attendance is related to belonging. But as Dr. Duardo said, you have to take a tiered approach. You have to be student-focused, data-informed, and really dig in where those specific needs are in your local context, right? Whether that's your school and at the district level. And with that, LACOE has a lot of resources that can support based on the needs that are identified in those targeted areas. So I think about our work in equity, diversity, and inclusion, right? Supporting our African American learners, the expanded learning program, and other efforts that we wrap love and support around our school communities, and work alongside schools and districts to identify where those gaps are and seek to address that differentiation that's needed that Dr. Duardo spoke to. So between the playbook and the regional learning networks and other efforts where we really try to create communities of practice, because it can be very isolating to be the person at the school or in the district who's working on the attendance. So recognizing that you're not alone and really looking to engage your entire school and district community, it's helpful to have colleagues and partners that you can talk with who are doing similar work in your neighboring districts. So those are some ways that we're really trying to help build that community that can help us all improve outcomes for our students.
Yeah, and if I would just add, I think the other critical part is the parents. And depending on the age of the students, if you have kindergarten, first, second graders that aren't coming to school, it really is about engaging those parents and understanding what's going on. And for me, I've always felt that taking a supportive, really trying to understand what the issues are for the parents approach, you'd see the gains and improvement. I'm not a believer in real punitive approaches. I think it's ironic that we used to suspend students for poor attendance, and just making sure that we are more understanding, empathetic of some of the conditions that our students and families are experiencing sometimes in their communities, whether it's a lack of food, housing, healthcare. There are inequities in our systems that make it sometimes, when I used to do home visits and visit students who weren't attending school regularly, after visiting them at home, I thought, well, I'm surprised they show up at all, because I don't know if I'd make it living under these circumstances and these conditions. So I think we need to, one, really understand families, really be more empathetic and caring, and engage with them and partner with other people, because school districts can't do this work alone, to really focus on the whole child and making sure that we have plenty of relationships and partners to support our students and families.
One of the things we were talking about before the show is the important role data can play. Can you share a little bit about how that works in terms of attendance?
Absolutely. I mean, one of the first things that we need to focus on when we're trying to improve attendance is to really understand what our attendance looks like. So we take attendance every day, and it's really important that we're taking that attendance data and analyzing it, so we know who's doing well in attendance, who isn't doing well, looking at it by grade level, by race, by, special ed, different types of students, different grade levels, so that we can really understand where a problem lies. Because when you just look at the aggregate of, the total attendance at a school or a district, you can have a 95, 96% attendance rate and think, wow, we're killing it, we're doing a great job. But then when you, start to disaggregate and take a closer look at the the data, you might find that your special ed students are severely chronically absent, or that your kindergartners are really struggling to come to school. So we have the benefit of collecting this data, and it's really important that we take that time so we know, well, which days of the week are students attending more, which days of the week. If it rains, we see attendance plummet. So we have to really understand what our attendance looks like in order to be able to make sure we can improve it.
Yeah, and I think along those lines, having everyone in the school community owning and being aware of that data as well. So we do have the ability to look at the data on a regular basis and to share it with the school community. And again, talk about the positive goals that we have, talk in staff meetings about where we're strong and where we're struggling. I often found as a counselor, we would have some classrooms that were attendance was struggling a lot more than others, but there are often real trends that you could look at and again talk through and figure out how to provide targeted supports almost in real time, right? As opposed to waiting for a bunch of time to go by before we intervene. I think the other thing that we spoke a little bit about is recognizing that our students, unless they're new to us, right, our little ones as they come into school. First, that's a very sensitive time to really build relationships and trust and sense of safety because the parents are sending their most precious, little person to us. So there's a lot of work to do there to build trust during those transitions. But for our older students or our students who've been in school for a while, looking at their attendance from a prior year, right? Because it's easy to come into the beginning of the school year and there's a clean slate. You don't have attendance problems until they start to appear and there may be one absence in the first couple of weeks of school. That's really a red flag. But I know as a counselor, it was always important to me to look at the records and to try to understand what the patterns were in prior years and when I got new students, to just have that data and to do articulation, right, from the middle school to the high school so that we're aware of the students that might need additional support before we start to let them fall behind and start missing school.
And that's what we're talking about, is differentiating the type of support that you provide. Because if you have a student and you're looking at their history and day one, you know that for the past 3 or 4 years of their education, they've been chronically absent, then you need to treat that student a little bit differently and make sure that immediately you're identifying what the causes are and supporting them.
I want to thank Alicia and Dr. Duardo for sharing their insights on how to keep our students engaged and in school. I'm Elizabeth Graswich. I'll see you next time on EdBuzz.